On July 17th, 2025, Apple officially filed a court case against John Prosser, a popular tech YouTuber that has been openly leaking tons of Apple products for the last several months through his channel Front Page Tech.
You're about to see the biggest iOS leak ever. We were the first to leak and show off the brand new camera app coming to iOS 19.
But there's a bit more nuance to it, which I'll get to. Over the last 5 years, it seemed like tech companies just accepted the fact that leaks were going to happen. Some even thinking Apple paid leakers to do it to build hype. But that doesn't seem to be the case, as Apple is now suing John Prosser and his co-defendants for scheming and breaking into an Apple employee's iPhone and stealing highly classified information to leak and profit off of it. But it gets worse. A leak is defined as intentionally disclosing something private or secret. It's illegal if that information is classified, which is why there's a bunch of leakers that hide their identity. But the way John Prosser defines leaks is slightly different.
Unfortunately and obviously, I can't share the real video of what I saw. So, to protect the source but still let you see this early, we've recreated it from scratch.
So technically, it's not a leak, because every time it's a mock-up and re-render of what he saw, but at the same time, he himself calls them leaks. And I mean, if you recreate exactly what you saw, is there any difference from just showing what you actually saw? And his titles can even mislead, making viewers think it's the actual official product, which is another argument though. Nevertheless, he's been able to recreate hyper-realistic renders before products are officially announced from Apple. So on January 17th, he did what he does and posted what claimed to be the very first look at iOS 19, previewing the camera app and then the iMessage app on his Genius Spark podcast on March 25th.
We've all been waiting on my iOS 19 video. That's coming out tomorrow officially because we have everything approved, and
Nice.
I'm not even going to go into that. I will show you a little something. Would you like to see what iMessage looks like in iOS 19?
Sure.
There you go. iMessage, iOS 19.
He pretty much exclusively previewed that iOS was going to be redesigned to look a lot more like Vision OS. To be fair, although he quote-unquote leaked this, anyone that's been keeping up with Apple really could have predicted this without really seeing a leak, so I don't think anyone was really surprised, and this wasn't any different from what he'd been doing. But everything would change 2 weeks later. On April 4th, 2025, Apple received an anonymous email from someone claiming that they had info about an employee who leaked pre-release design details, which were eventually shared by John Prosser in his YouTube video sourced from Ethan Lipnick, an Apple employee. There was a FaceTime call between Prosser and Lipnick, or a friend of Lipnick's, where the iOS 19 interface was demonstrated to Prosser. Prosser has details on the lock screen, home screen, app animations, and app interfaces. The call was a few months ago. Prosser has video from it that shows the iOS 19 interface. This email was essentially confirming the identity of the actual leaker and that it was actually leaked. Of course, at this time, this was happening behind the scenes, so for John Prosser, he wasn't actually aware of this and would continue to recreate and show even more of what he saw.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.
In hindsight, you can see that the home screen app icon shape were wrong, in which that could have been one of the undeveloped builds that Apple was still considering, but at the same time, Control Center looked pretty accurate. But again, he reminds viewers that
We recreate what we see to ensure that those sources are protected.
But when Apple officially announced iOS 19, which they rebranded to iOS 26 to follow the year, it showed that John Prosser definitely didn't get a hold of the final versions, as the liquid glass glossy look was a lot more pronounced than what Prosser had quote-unquote leaked. And Prosser is typically honest about when he's wrong. For example, when he said the app icons would have a rounder corner radius.
To which I said, might just be a glitch. And, well, turns out it was that. It was that. It was a glitch. It was not real, unfortunately.
Ah, cool. He was right on some things, wrong with others. Seemingly honest. Let's move on to the iPhone Air, right? Well, this is where everything went serious. On July 17th, 2025, Mac Rumors reported that Apple sued John Prosser with claims much worse than just leaking and posted the official court documents. This case arises from defendants' coordinated scheme to break into an Apple development iPhone, steal Apple's trade secrets, and profit from the theft. Defendants' acts harmed Apple and its thousands of employees working tirelessly on iOS and iPadOS who spent years working in secret on Apple's new features and products. Apple's subsequent investigation revealed that defendant John Prosser, working with defendant Michael Ramaciotti, improperly accessed and disclosed Apple's highly confidential unreleased software designs, including details regarding the unreleased iOS 19 operating system, which is now known as iOS 26 for Apple mobile devices. Both defendants knew that Apple goes to great lengths to protect its trade secret information, including the highly sensitive information contained on devices used for the express purpose of developing new products. Defendants also explicitly acknowledged that they were not authorized to access those devices, much less steal Apple's trade secrets from them. Defendants' misconduct was brazen and egregious. After Mr. Prosser learned that Mr. Ramaciotti needed money and that his friend Ethan Lipnick worked at Apple on unreleased software designs, defendants jointly planned to access Apple's confidential and trade secret information through Mr. Lipnick's Apple-owned development iPhone. Apple learned that the details of the scheme in Mr. Ramaciotti's own words through an audio message to Mr. Lipnick, which Mr. Lipnick provided to Apple. According to Mr. Ramaciotti's message, while staying at Mr. Lipnick's home, Mr. Ramaciotti used location tracking to determine where Mr. Lipnick would be gone for an extended period, acquired his password, and broke into his development iPhone, which Mr. Lipnick had failed to properly secure according to Apple's policies. As he detailed in the audio message, Mr. Ramaciotti made a video call to Mr. Prosser and showed iOS on the development iPhone. He demonstrated several features and applications disclosing details of the unreleased iOS 19 operating system. Mr. Ramaciotti admitted he knew this access and copying was unauthorized and could put Mr. Lipnick's career in jeopardy, but he did it anyway. Apple subsequently ended Mr. Lipnick's employment for failing to follow Apple's policies designed to protect its confidential information, including developing devices and unreleased software and features. According to Mr. Ramaciotti, Mr. Prosser proposed the scheme and promised to find out a way for Mr. Ramaciotti to get payment if Mr. Ramaciotti would provide access to Mr. Lipnick's development iPhone, so Mr. Prosser could steal and profit from Apple's confidential information. Mr. Ramaciotti acknowledged that Mr. Prosser recorded the video call with screen capture tools. Mr. Prosser took videos of the trade secrets of the development iPhone, kept them on his owner's device, and disseminated those recordings to others. He shared the recordings with at least one person who reported back to Mr. Lipnick that he recognized Mr. Lipnick's apartment in the recording. Ultimately, Mr. Prosser profited off of Apple's trade secrets by at least sharing them in multiple videos on his business YouTube channel, from which he generates ad revenue. Defendants' unlawful acts, which constitutes knowing and intentional trade secret misappropriation, have damaged Apple with respects to its competitors, including by giving them the advantage of knowing more about Apple's software designs and unreleased functionality in advance of their release. Moreover, Apple does not know the full extent of its trade secrets and confidential information that defendants viewed or retained when they accessed Mr. Lipnick's development iPhone, which contained a significant amount of additional Apple trade secret information that has not yet been publicly disclosed. In view of the audacity of their acquisition and disclosure of its trade secrets, Apple fears that defendants will continue to misuse its trade secrets absent judicial intervention, in which Apple is asking the court in both damages and a court order preventing Prosser from disclosing Apple's trade secrets ever again. Prosser actually quickly responded to this on his Twitter hours later, saying, "Interesting, this is not how things went down on my end. Looking forward to being able to speak to Apple about it. For the record, I certainly did not plot to access anyone's phone and was unaware of the situation playing out." Now, based on Prosser always being clear with his processes, it seemed like he wouldn't go on into these measures to get these leaks. And he's also so casual and willing to work this with Apple. And he also defended himself, showing messages between himself and his source. "How the flip did you get this? LOL. Shh, what was deleted? I guess we'll never know. What? God damn it. But we're 100% sure this is legit material? Yes. Oh boy. Okay. Trusting you blindly, LOL. Well, I mean, you're not entirely blind here. Any info I've given you within the last year and a half has been correct. It definitely does appear like he's surprised and had no intent of scheming, but there may be more to the picture that we are unaware of, as I don't think the world's biggest company would just mess around with these claims. As of Monday, July 21st, we haven't heard heard any new big updates. But if Apple does win this case, Prosser will seriously be cooked. But we'll just have to see. What do you think though? If Apple wins, could this be the end of leak culture? Is Jon Prosser in the wrong for doing this? What does this mean for other popular leakers like Mark Gurman? Are leaks a net positive or net negative for Apple? Let me know in the comments. Peace!